Imagine a time long before modern civilization, around 300,000 years ago, on the plains of what is now Europe and Asia. There are no cities, no smartphones, no social media, just the raw struggle of survival. Yet in this ancient world, Neanderthals, a species that is often misunderstood, roamed the earth alongside Homo sapiens, our distant, long-lost relatives. They were not some primitive creatures lacking in intellect, but instead, they were a species with a rich history of survival in one of the harshest environments Earth has ever seen. Neanderthals, often depicted as brutish cavemen, were far more complex than the stereotype suggests. They were highly skilled hunters, adapted to survive in extreme cold, with bodies built for endurance. They created tools from stone, painted on cave walls, and even buried their dead with rituals, showing a deep understanding of mortality and an early form of culture. But more than anything, Neanderthals shared our DNA, something that wasn't truly understood until the discovery of their remains and later, the sequencing of their genome. For decades, Neanderthals were thought to be separate, isolated from Homo sapiens, wiped out by the rise of our species. But what if I told you that our ancestors didn't just live alongside these ancient humans? They interbred with them. That's right, Neanderthal DNA is alive and well inside many of us today. You carry pieces of them in your body, hidden within your genes, shaping everything from your immune system to your physical traits. But the question is, how did we really become so connected to them? And what does that say about our survival? It wasn't until the 21st century that we realized just how deeply intertwined our destinies were with the Neanderthals. As scientists began sequencing ancient genomes, it became clear our ancestors bred with Neanderthals, and their genetic legacy lives on in modern humans. If you have European, Asian, or Oceanian heritage, you likely have 1 to 2% of Neanderthal DNA. But the real question is, what do we inherit from them? And how has this shaped us as a species? Through genetic analysis, scientists discovered that the Neanderthal genome carried vital information. Some gene variants they passed on helped us survive in colder climates, bolstered our immune response, and potentially made us more adaptable to certain environmental challenges. In fact, modern human diseases like asthma, Crohn's disease, and even depression may have roots that trace back to the Neanderthal genes we inherited. But what else did we inherit from these ancient cousins? And how does it affect us today? While Neanderthals are the more well-known of the ancient human cousins, there is another species whose legacy we carry, and one that remains shrouded in mystery: the Denisovans. Unlike Neanderthals, the Denisovans were only discovered relatively recently. In 2010, when a tiny fragment of bone was found in the Denisova cave in Siberia. From this bone, scientists extracted DNA that revealed the existence of a previously unknown human species, whose genetic contribution to modern humans was more profound than anyone had expected. What makes the Denisovans so intriguing is not only their genetic connection to us, but also the sheer mystery surrounding them. Very little physical evidence of Denisovans has been found, leading some to question how much we truly understand about this forgotten species. However, genetic studies have revealed that Denisovan DNA is still present in some modern human populations, particularly those in Asia, the Pacific Islands, and Melanesia. In fact, up to 5% of the DNA of people from these regions can be traced back to Denisovans. So, how did this unknown species impact our survival story? And why is this discovery so important? Well, Denisovans were uniquely adapted to survive in extreme environments, just like the Neanderthals. But rather than living in the cold, their range spanned the mountainous regions of Asia, including the Tibetan Plateau. And it turns out the Tibetan people, who live in high-altitude areas where oxygen is sparse, carry a specific gene variant that helps them survive in such conditions. This gene variant, which helps with oxygen absorption in low-oxygen environments, is directly linked to Denisovan ancestry. What's even more fascinating is how Denisovan DNA has shaped us in other ways. Researchers have found that Denisovan genes have contributed to our immune system, protecting us against diseases that we wouldn't have been able to withstand otherwise. This means that the ancient Denisovans, with their survival strategies and adaptations, may have played a role in keeping us alive during evolutionary bottlenecks or pandemics. Yet, as with the Neanderthals, the impact of Denisovans on modern humans isn't just biological, it's also cultural. This interbreeding allowed Homo sapiens to thrive by integrating the survival traits of these species into their own genetic makeup. The Denisovans' resilience to harsh environments, along with their robust immune systems, helped us withstand the challenges that early humans faced: diseases, extreme climates, and competition with other species. But how much of their legacy do we still carry today? By now, you might be wondering, what did we really inherit from the Neanderthals and the Denisovans? How did they shape who we are today, both in terms of our biology and behavior? What lasting impact have these ancient species had on modern humans, and how can we detect their influence in our lives right now? First, let's talk about the most obvious legacy: DNA. While Neanderthals and Denisovans are long gone, their genetic material still exists in us. For instance, those of European and Asian descent have inherited up to 2% Neanderthal DNA, while Melanesians and some other populations carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. This means that every time you look in a mirror, you are seeing traces of these ancient species in your features and genetic makeup. But this inheritance goes far deeper than just physical traits. Let's talk about health. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to be more resilient to certain diseases? Or why some suffer from chronic conditions like depression, autoimmune diseases, or asthma? Well, these conditions may not be just random. They might actually be a result of Neanderthal and Denisovan genes. For example, Neanderthal genes have been linked to a stronger immune response, which may have helped our ancestors survive the harsh climates they faced. But those same genes could also contribute to the increased risk of certain conditions today, like skin cancer, asthma, and even mood disorders. In other words, while these ancient ancestors gave us the tools to survive in a brutal world, their genes might also be responsible for some of the struggles we face in modern life. It's a legacy that is both beneficial and problematic. But it's not just about health. There are psychological traits tied to these ancient species as well. Neanderthals and Denisovans didn't just contribute to our genetics, they also shaped our behavior. For example, recent studies suggest that Neanderthals might have had a much more sophisticated emotional life than we previously thought. Evidence shows that they may have had deep family structures, cared for the injured, and even experienced grief over their dead. These emotional traits likely influence the human connection to others that we see today, how we value our loved ones, how we care for each other, and even how we react in times of stress or loss. Some researchers even argue that Neanderthal genes could have contributed to our social behavior. Imagine a world where survival was based not just on strength, but on cooperation and empathy. We see these traits reflected in us today, as humans are known for their ability to form social bonds that support long-term survival. While early humans might have learned how to work in groups from these species, some of the darker traits that we inherited, like aggression or isolation, also tie back to these ancestors. But what about Denisovans? Their legacy in modern humans is less understood, but one thing is clear. They passed down genes that helped humanity adapt to extreme environments. Today, populations living in places like Tibet have Denisovan DNA that helps them thrive in low-oxygen environments. It's likely that the Denisovans were already evolving to live in high-altitude regions long before Homo sapiens set foot in those areas. Their DNA, once a survival tool in the past, is now a piece of the genetic puzzle that keeps us alive today. As you can see, these species didn't just disappear. They're still with us in our genes, health, and behaviors. They're part of who we are, whether we recognize it or not. Our modern survival, the way we think, our emotional resilience, and even our susceptibility to certain diseases has been profoundly influenced by these forgotten ancestors. But how much more do we still not know? How will future genetic research continue to unravel the mysteries of our shared past? Could we even one day tap into the lost powers of these ancient species to heal ourselves in ways that modern medicine can't explain? And what does this tell us about human evolution and our future? Picture this. You're staring at your family tree, tracing the lines of your ancestors back through the centuries. What you might not realize is that some of your earliest ancestors weren't just Homo sapiens. They were Neanderthals and Denisovans, two long-forgotten species that once roamed the earth alongside our ancestors. But here's the shocking part. It turns out your ancestors interbred with these species. This wasn't just some casual meeting in prehistoric times. It was a crucial part of human survival and evolution. For decades, we assumed that Homo sapiens were a unique species, evolving in isolation until we emerged as the dominant force on Earth. But genetic studies in the 21st century revealed something much more complex. Our ancestors didn't just survive alongside Neanderthals and Denisovans. They interbred with them. The proof? It's in our DNA. The first major breakthrough came in 2009, when scientists successfully sequenced the genome of a Neanderthal from a bone fragment found in a Siberian cave. That's when we realized that Neanderthal DNA is still alive and well in modern humans. In fact, up to 2% of the DNA of people with European and Asian ancestry comes from Neanderthals. But it doesn't stop there. Researchers later discovered that the Denisovans, another ancient human species, also contributed to our genetic blueprint. While we didn't even know about the Denisovans until 2010, DNA evidence has shown that some populations, particularly in Asia and Oceania, carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. So how did this happen? Was it a casual encounter, or was there more to it? Let's break it down. Early Homo sapiens probably encountered Neanderthals in places like Europe and the Middle East, while Denisovans lived in regions like Asia and Siberia. As our ancestors moved through these regions, they likely encountered and interacted with these species, often resulting in interbreeding. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just about survival. The genetic material from Neanderthals and Denisovans gave early humans an evolutionary advantage. For example, Neanderthal DNA helped early humans adapt to cold climates. One specific genetic variant, known as the MC1R gene, gave humans more resistance to cold temperatures, possibly aiding survival in the freezing environments of Ice Age Europe. Meanwhile, the Denisovans helped modern humans survive in high-altitude environments, something that modern Tibetans still benefit from today, thanks to a gene inherited from Denisovans that allows them to absorb oxygen more efficiently. This genetic exchange wasn't some random event. It was a critical piece of human evolution. The genes that were passed down to us have shaped everything from our immune systems to our physical resilience. It's no longer just about survival. This interbreeding helped build the genetic diversity that has allowed humans to adapt and thrive in different environments. And the most mind-blowing part, these ancient species didn't just leave behind traces of their physical traits. They also influenced us on a biological and psychological level. In fact, some of our emotional responses, such as fear, aggression, and social behavior, might be tied to this ancient mix of genetics. But there's more. How did these interbreeding events influence our health and behavior? What traits did we inherit that might have helped or hindered us? And how does this ancient genetic inheritance still affect us today? The answers to these questions lie in the hidden layers of our DNA, revealing how these ancient species shaped us into who we are today. Why would Homo sapiens willingly interbreed with species that were not just different in appearance, but likely shared little in common in terms of language, culture, or way of life? Was this simply a survival strategy? Or is there something deeper at play? The truth is, the interbreeding between Neanderthals, Denisovans, and Homo sapiens wasn't driven by a single reason, but a combination of environmental and social factors that were crucial to survival. Climate played a key role. Early humans faced unimaginable challenges: extreme cold, food shortages, and the constant threat of predators. To survive, we had to be adaptive, resilient, and capable of compromising with those around us. And in these trying times, genetic exchange was not just beneficial, but essential. Neanderthals had already mastered the ability to thrive in the Ice Age conditions of Europe, and their immune systems have been fine-tuned over thousands of years to fight off diseases that may have been deadly to early humans. This made them extremely valuable as genetic partners. For early Homo sapiens, encountering Neanderthals wasn't just an opportunity to expand their genetic diversity. It was a chance to learn survival tactics from species that had already perfected adaptation to the environment. When early humans moved into territories occupied by Neanderthals, interbreeding was likely a survival mechanism. Those who carried a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA were more likely to withstand harsh conditions, fight off diseases, and ultimately survive. This wasn't a mere accident of nature. It was a strategic move in a harsh, unforgiving world. As a result, Homo sapiens inherited crucial survival traits like stronger immune responses, better cold resistance, and the ability to thrive in extreme environments. And let's not forget the Denisovans, who were equally important. While Neanderthals gave us traits that helped us survive in cold climates, Denisovans gave us tools to survive in high-altitude environments. Tibetans, for example, have inherited specific gene variants that help them absorb oxygen more efficiently in low-oxygen environments, a trait directly tied to Denisovan genes. So, why did this interbreeding happen? Was it purely pragmatic? Certainly, the need for adaptability was a driving factor, but there's also the potential for social integration. As early humans and these species coexisted, it's likely that cultural exchanges took place, whether in the form of shared resources, territories, or even mutual protection against common threats. In such a setting, interbreeding might have occurred naturally rather than being forced or rare. But the deeper question remains: what did our ancestors gain from this interbreeding? Aside from survival advantages, early humans were likely also influenced by Neanderthal and Denisovan traits that affected behavior and emotion. Could the empathy we feel for others today be partially inherited from these species? Could Neanderthal-like social bonding have contributed to the rise of complex human relationships? Moreover, this genetic exchange didn't just help humans survive, it allowed them to become dominant. The fusion of these species genes helped create a genetic resilience that allowed early humans to outlast environmental challenges that wiped out other species. While many of these ancient species died out, their genetic influence remains embedded in us, enabling Homo sapiens to dominate the planet. However, this interbreeding wasn't all sunshine and roses. It also introduced complexities. Some traits may have been beneficial, while others led to diseases or vulnerabilities. The legacy of Neanderthal and Denisovan genes is a mixed blessing. Some inherited traits may make us more susceptible to conditions like autoimmune diseases, while others provide protection against pathogens. As we've discovered, Neanderthals and Denisovans are not just distant cousins in the human family tree. They are part of the very genetic fabric that makes us who we are today. The question now is, what exactly did we inherit from these ancient species? And how does their legacy still shape us in ways we might not even realize? The most obvious impact is, of course, genetic inheritance. We now know that Neanderthal DNA makes up 1 to 2% of the genetic material in non-African populations, while some populations in Asia and Oceania carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. But what does that actually mean in practical terms? How has this interbreeding affected us in our daily lives? And what traits or abilities did we inherit from these ancient humans? Let's start with physical traits. Neanderthal genes have contributed to modern human skin and hair color, and have even influenced our height and body structure. For example, those of us with Neanderthal genes may have inherited a genetic variant that helps our skin synthesize vitamin D more efficiently, particularly in regions with low sunlight. This helped our ancestors adapt to colder climates where sunlight was scarce and vitamin D deficiency could be deadly. But what about today? Some researchers believe that these same genetic traits may make us more susceptible to certain skin conditions, like eczema or psoriasis, which were also common among Neanderthals. Immune system resilience is another powerful gift passed down from these ancient species. Neanderthal genes are strongly associated with stronger immune responses, which helped early humans survive in the disease-ridden world of the Ice Age. But this inherited immune system is a double-edged sword. While it protected our ancestors from the diseases of their time, it can make us more vulnerable to modern diseases like autoimmune disorders and even allergies. For example, certain Neanderthal genes are believed to play a role in asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, and other immune-related conditions. So, while our ancient cousins gave us the tools to fight off diseases, they also contributed to some of the health challenges we face today. But the influence of Neanderthals and Denisovans doesn't end with physical traits. Psychologically, these species also left their mark on our emotional responses and social behavior. Neanderthals, for example, were likely capable of complex emotions, including grief and empathy. This can still be seen in modern humans today in the way we form deep emotional bonds and care for others in times of need. Early humans who interbred with Neanderthals might have inherited these social skills, which helped them build stronger communities, protect each other, and cooperate in the harsh environments they faced. Additionally, some scientists believe that the emotional and cognitive advantages inherited from Neanderthals helped Homo sapiens become better problem solvers and more adaptive in the face of constant challenges. The cognitive traits passed down through interbreeding likely made humans more capable of complex tool use, cultural development, and social organization. Critical factors that led to the success of Homo sapiens over other species. Yet it's not just our bodies and minds that carry the legacy of these ancient species. It's also our DNA. Research has shown that Neanderthal genes contribute to a robust immune system, a better ability to fight infections, and resilience to diseases. But this DNA legacy isn't always beneficial. Some traits, passed down from both Neanderthals and Denisovans, can contribute to chronic conditions like depression, anxiety, and even high blood pressure. These traits, once adaptive in a harsh world, are less helpful in the modern environment, where they may contribute to health problems we struggle with today. And yet, despite these mixed blessings, we are inextricably linked to these ancient species. The genetic code of Neanderthals and Denisovans is woven into our own, helping us survive, adapt, and evolve. As scientists continue to study the DNA of these ancient ancestors, we gain a deeper understanding of how their genetic influence shaped human history and continues to influence our biology today. But there's still so much more to discover. How much more of these ancient species is hidden within us, waiting to be uncovered? And what other genetic mysteries lie in our past, waiting to be unraveled? The truth is, we may never fully understand the extent of their legacy, but one thing is for certain. Neanderthals and Denisovans are still very much a part of us. The legacy of Neanderthals and Denisovans is more than just a set of historical footnotes. It's embedded deep within the DNA of every human alive today. While many of us walk around unaware of the ancient species that once roamed the earth, their genetic influence continues to shape our health and physical resilience in ways we're only beginning to understand. From how our immune systems function to the diseases we're prone to, the trace of these species is still very much alive in us. Neanderthals, known for their adaptability in the harsh Ice Age environments, left an indelible mark on our immune systems. When early humans began to interbreed with them, they inherited a suite of genetic traits that bolstered their ability to fight off disease. This exchange of genes wasn't a mere side effect. It was survival at its most basic level. Through this genetic inheritance, we gained a more robust immune response. In fact, several immune system genes found in modern humans are directly tied to Neanderthal DNA. These genes were likely crucial in protecting early humans from diseases that ravaged other species, including bacterial infections and viruses. But here's the catch. While Neanderthal genes helped us survive, they also introduced new vulnerabilities. For instance, certain Neanderthal variants have been linked to autoimmune diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. These are conditions where the body's immune system turns on itself, attacking healthy tissue. So, While Neanderthal genes strengthened us in certain areas, they also made us more susceptible to diseases that we didn't face in the Ice Age, contributing to modern health challenges. The same principle applies to Denisovans, whose genetic contributions are seen in certain human populations today. Tibetans, for example, possess specific genes inherited from Denisovans that help them adapt to high-altitude environments where oxygen levels are lower. This genetic advantage allows them to survive and thrive in regions like the Tibetan Plateau, where the lack of oxygen would normally cause serious health issues for people without this genetic trait. These Denisovan genes are not just ancient relics. They continue to play a vital role in the health of modern humans, allowing us to thrive in conditions that once seemed impossible. But it's not all sunshine and survival. Neanderthal genes are also linked to modern health challenges. Researchers have discovered that certain DNA passed down from Neanderthals is responsible for increased vulnerability to diseases like skin cancer, heart disease, and depression. These genetic traits may have been adaptive in the past, but in today's world, they contribute to conditions that limit our health and longevity. For example, Neanderthal DNA is associated with higher blood pressure, a key risk factor for heart disease. Similarly, skin conditions such as eczema and psoriasis are linked to the genetic inheritance from these ancient humans. Although these traits may have been advantageous in ancient times, they are less so in the modern world, where we face a different set of challenges. The most fascinating aspect of this genetic inheritance is how it shapes our response to the modern world. Our immune system, for instance, is more adaptable because of the Neanderthal and Denisovan genes that have shaped it. On the flip side, genetic predispositions to diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and mental health disorders remind us that while these ancient species helped us survive, they also left us with complex health risks. The balance of these inherited traits is a mixed legacy, a blend of strength and weakness, shaped by ancient survival and modern adversity. But the real question is, what do these ancient genetic markers mean for human evolution moving forward? Could we harness the power of these ancient genes to improve our health and well-being? Or is this an unavoidable legacy we must learn to manage? The intersection of ancient genetics and modern medicine is where things get truly interesting. Now that we've explored the physical legacy of Neanderthals and Denisovans, it's time to dive into a more abstract, yet equally fascinating aspect of their influence. How these ancient species shaped our minds. What did we inherit from them in terms of cognitive abilities, emotional intelligence, and social behaviors? Can the Neanderthal genes hidden within us explain some of the way we think, feel, and interact with others today? As we dig deeper into human evolution, one of the most striking revelations is how Neanderthals and Denisovans might have influenced the development of complex behaviors. While early humans were developing tools, using fire, and forming social bonds, these ancient species were likely doing the same. In fact, evidence suggests that Neanderthals had a level of cognitive sophistication previously thought to be exclusive to modern humans. For example, Neanderthals didn't just survive. They thrived in complex environments, which suggests a certain level of problem-solving ability and abstract thinking. They created sophisticated tools, likely engaged in ritualistic burial practices, and even used pigments for body art. These cultural markers indicate that Neanderthals had some degree of self-awareness, empathy, and possibly even a form of spiritual belief, all traits that we once thought were uniquely human. In fact, some experts believe that the cognitive abilities of Neanderthals may have been very similar to those of early Homo sapiens, particularly in terms of their emotional intelligence and their capacity for forming complex social bonds. So what does this mean for us today? It's likely that much of the empathy and social cohesion we see in modern humans, our ability to form close-knit communities and bond emotionally, was passed down through this ancient connection. The Neanderthal genes we carry could explain why we're so socially oriented and why we form deep emotional connections with our families, friends, and even strangers. These traits may have been critical for survival in early human societies, where cooperation and compassion were key to overcoming external challenges like food scarcity or dangerous predators. But what about Denisovans? How do they contribute to the emotional and cognitive development of modern humans? While we know less about the cognitive abilities of Denisovans, there is one key contribution that stands out: adaptability. The Denisovans lived in extreme environments and were highly adaptable, likely developing cognitive and emotional strategies to survive in challenging climates. This ability to adapt to new environments may have influenced our ancestors' ability to think creatively and solve problems in novel ways. Furthermore, the Tibetan gene inherited from Denisovans, which helps people live in low-oxygen environments, could have also affected our ancestors' cognitive resilience. Just as we inherit immunity to certain diseases from our ancient cousins, we may also have inherited mental strategies that allowed us to adapt in challenging situations. This genetic inheritance could explain why some modern humans are particularly resilient in the face of adversity, able to think clearly and act effectively even under extreme stress. But the influence of these ancient species on modern human behavior extends far beyond just problem-solving and adaptability. It also touches on the emotional and psychological aspects of human life. For example, modern humans are deeply affected by emotional triggers, such as fear or anxiety. These emotional responses are vital for survival. Fight or flight reactions are hardwired into our brains. But where did these emotional responses originate? Neanderthal DNA is strongly linked to the emotional systems in our brain. For example, studies have shown that Neanderthal genes influence our stress responses, including how we deal with fear and anxiety. The ability to experience deep emotions, to care for each other, and to work together in the face of danger. These are likely traits inherited from our Neanderthal cousins. Without their emotional intelligence, early Homo sapiens may have struggled to form cohesive groups, especially when facing external pressures. Now that we've explored how Neanderthals and Denisovans shaped us physically, emotionally, and cognitively, the question remains: what does the future hold for us as we continue to unlock the secrets of our ancient past? The field of genetic research is advancing at an exponential rate, and as we uncover more about the role these ancient species played in our evolution, we are also faced with some powerful questions about how we can use this knowledge. What ethical dilemmas will arise as we learn more about the ancient genes hidden in our DNA? And what role will these ancient legacies play in the future of human health and medicine? The future of genetic research is both exciting and deeply complicated. The Neanderthal and Denisovan genomes are not just markers of our past. They hold the key to future advancements in medicine, healthcare, and even personalized medicine. Imagine a world where we can harness the genetic traits that Neanderthals passed down to us: immune system resilience, cold adaptation, mental resilience, to help treat modern health conditions. Researchers are already studying the Neanderthal genes linked to immunity, hoping to improve vaccine development or treat autoimmune diseases. Denisovan DNA could hold the answers to better treatment of high-altitude diseases, or help us understand how to adapt to extreme environmental conditions like climate change. But with this knowledge comes ethical questions. What happens when we start to edit human genes, potentially enhancing certain traits inherited from Neanderthals or Denisovans? Will we be able to target specific genes for health benefits, like increasing intelligence or improving physical strength, without unintended consequences? And at what point does genetic enhancement begin to blur the lines between natural evolution and human manipulation? Some experts worry that gene editing and genetic engineering could lead to the creation of a new class of humans, those with enhanced abilities based on ancient genes. This opens the door to difficult questions about inequality, societal divisions, and whether we should even tamper with our genetic makeup. What happens to the genetic diversity that has kept humanity strong and resilient for thousands of years if we begin to choose what traits are passed down? Another concern is the potential exploitation of this knowledge. While the ability to access and manipulate ancient DNA could lead to groundbreaking medical treatments, it could also be misused for unethical purposes. Would the rich and powerful have access to genetic modifications that could give them advantages over others? Would ancient DNA be seen as a new form of power, the ability to access the same resilience and strength that allowed Neanderthals and Denisovans to survive in harsh environments? Despite these concerns, the future of genetic research is undeniably promising. As we learn more about the role ancient humans played in shaping us, we gain a greater understanding of how and why we survived. The Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA we carry is a testament to our resilience and adaptability, qualities that have allowed Homo sapiens to thrive across time and space. With advances in genetic technology, we may one day be able to unlock even more of the secrets that these ancient species left behind, allowing us to improve our health, fight disease, and perhaps even live longer lives. However, it is crucial that we approach this newfound knowledge with caution, respect, and a commitment to ethics. The decisions we make about how we use this ancient genetic legacy will have far-reaching consequences, not just for our health, but for human evolution itself. As we stand on the brink of a new era in genetic discovery, we must ask ourselves, how far should we go in unlocking the secrets of our ancient past? Should we embrace the lessons of survival that these ancient species have left us, or should we proceed with caution, mindful of the responsibility that comes with such profound knowledge? As we've explored throughout this journey, the legacy of Neanderthals and Denisovans is far more than just a chapter in the history books. It's embedded within us, shaping our bodies, our minds, and even our behaviors in ways we never fully understood until now. Through genetic evidence, we've uncovered a hidden connection to these long-forgotten species, one that's still very much alive in our DNA, affecting everything from our immune systems to our emotional responses. These ancient species didn't just fade into extinction. Their genetic mark is still with us today, guiding us through the challenges of modern life. Whether we're facing immune-related diseases, emotional trauma, or resilience in the face of adversity, we're tapping into the strength and wisdom of our ancient ancestors. But while their genetic inheritance has given us strength, it's also introduced new challenges that we must learn to navigate in today's world. The future of genetic research is full of potential. We have the power to unlock even more secrets from the past, gaining insights that could improve healthcare and help us live better, longer lives. However, this power comes with ethical questions about how we choose to use it. How far should we go in manipulating our genetic legacy? And what responsibilities do we have to ensure that these advancements benefit everyone, not just the few? As we continue to uncover the deep connection between our past and present, one thing is clear. We are not as separate from our ancestors as we think. We carry their genes, their strengths, and their struggles within us. Understanding this truth can help us embrace our shared history, while also teaching us how to heal, adapt, and evolve for the future. If you've been amazed by the connections between our ancient ancestors and modern humans, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the fascinating world of our past. Do you carry traces of Neanderthal or Denisovan genes? Are you feeling the impact of their legacy in your health or behavior? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories. And if you know someone who's curious about our ancient past and its surprising influence on us today, be sure to share this video with them. Together, we can uncover more mysteries of the forgotten species and the hidden power we all carry inside us. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes understanding where we came from is the first step in discovering how we can move forward.